Welcome to the Uplift, where we are uplifting our lives, uplifting each other, and uplifting our communities together. Thank you for joining myself, Cy Herrera, and Tessa Savala here, two women, two attorneys, doing it our way, and inviting you here each week to share in on the stories, advice, and life lessons we've picked up along our journeys that keep us uplifted, and that will hopefully do the very same thing for you. Now buckle in and let's get ready to be uplifted.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
As always, I'm Tessa, and I'm joined by the lovely and effervescent Cy. How are you?
Wonderful. Excited to be with you as always.
Me too. It is I was reading the news this week, and I'm sure you saw it too. There was this article about how there's a residue all over Austin, and it's bug poop. I can't get it out of my mind. The idea that every time I touch a door handle outside or anything, that I'm just getting coated in bug poop. And I'm sure it's always been like that. It's nothing new, but it's been on my mind. So I'm
Bring on the bubbles.
Right. All I can think is I can't wait to talk to Cy this week because I want to get
discuss.
I want to get this bug poo idea out of my head.
Oh my gosh,
and
that's
talk
amazing.
about something that is so much more uplifting. At least it has to be better than bug poo.
Yeah, well, the bar is low.
That's an excellent point.
I think we can clear it.
I hope so.
Too funny.
I saw when I was in, I guess it was probably junior high.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was still a time where you would go rent a VHS time. And it was the movie 16 Candles. It has a lot of problems in today's world, but classic rom-com, right?
Yeah.
And there's a scene toward the end where our heroine Samantha, who has just come out of her sister's very weird wedding, is standing on the steps of this church, and across the street is the guy that she's just been crushing on, and he's there for her, and she doesn't get it. She's looking around, has to be, you have to be here for somebody else, not me.
Yeah.
And he kind of whispers, "Yeah, you," and she still doesn't believe it. And it makes me think, wow, that's a lot of life too, right? Are we going to ask people to help us with something, or hang out, or talk to our boss or our coworkers, or really anyone? I think we so often want to help everybody ourselves, but don't the help for us,
attention.
or the attention, or that we're a bother, or that we're a problem. And I'm are we all that type of Samantha who's just standing there going, huh, do I deserve this?
And it's so interesting that it's coming from that adolescent experience too. Just the example is interesting because I feel we all still have that little insecure, awkward situation, that time that we went through, whatever age it was, or maybe we're still going through it. But I mean, it's even if you have changed, or grown, right, in different ways, it doesn't mean that you don't have that feeling still. It doesn't mean that you don't revert back to that when it comes to certain situations, right?
Right? I don't think I've ever talked to anyone, young, old, highly successful, completely content, or someone who's completely content where they are, and that is how they've defined success for them. Or I should say, the other success is old school success, pre-pandemic success, where we measured everything by how many dollars were behind it. So, but anyone in any category, they always seem to have that story of their childhood, right? Where that kind of innate insecurity.
Oh yeah. Just think of your most embarrassing moment right now in school. I could think of mine. It's terrible. And you will feel it again.
I can remember the first time I talked in class that I wasn't called on. Wow.
The eyes, the judgment. Yeah. And then also it's that moment is so it's so terrible, not necessarily because of what people said or did, like, that is probably bad and why it's so, stuck with you and I, but also, like, it just makes me think back, like, knowing so much today and, like, how I think differently today, it's just kinda interesting because I didn't have that mindset back then.
Right?
So, I probably made it so much worse in my head and in my memory that I'm still stuck with because of the mindset that I had at that time. So that's also intriguing to me, like, what was it really like? I mean, is there an objective reality? But, like, what would I interpret it as today versus then? And it also doesn't matter because it's like I don't know that you can reverse that memory, like, that emotional memory, I don't know.
Yeah, you raised two really fascinating points. One, does anybody else care when these situations happen? And are
Mhm,
they really
mhm,
judging you? I
right,
think probably not, but who knows? And
mhm,
two, how do we get past it? Like you said, you weren't fully equipped, and I totally agree that I was the same way. Like, what happened in our lives that kind of either tamped down the insecurities
mhm,
or boosted our confidence, or did
mm,
we or is it some sort of like indifference? We're like, I don't really care about what these
yeah,
people think anymore.
yeah,
Or is it a combination of everything?
and I
This
and
type
I
of
yeah, I think right away when you say that too, that it's such learned behavior, right? Because when
yeah.
you said you could think this or you could think that or you could feel this way or that way, I was literally thinking of different people in my childhood, like, that were my, adult role models essentially. And
Mhm.
emotional modeling, right? Where I'm like, well, this person says that everybody, hates him or everybody is always judging him or whatever. And it's like, you just instantly internalize that as a child. Like, you're just like, oh, that's what people do. And that's what they must be doing to me. You don't even think about it. It's just, that's just the way it is. And then you meet somebody who's like, I don't care what anybody thinks. And like, you're just like, oh, what? That's an option? Okay. Like, you're just like, this is a brand new discovery to me. I didn't know that I was allowed to think that, and I mean, literally, it's just like you're a blank canvas when you're young, and it's just, you just like run into different paint color. And
Right,
it
like,
just, yeah, it colors everything.
I was very fortunate in this regard that my mom was very much the type of person who said, "You can't let people have power over you." And she was
Mhm.
probably to the extreme, right? Like, she thought that if you displayed any emotion towards somebody, you were
Mm.
giving them power over
Giving
you.
them
Or
power,
if
yeah.
yeah, and she might have taken it too far, but it's, I think not a bad idea. Like, I still think about it today, right? Like, if I react
Mhm.
this way, am I giving somebody else power over me? And
Mm.
granted, working in politics, that's all it is, right? Like,
Mhm.
stupid little junior high power plays on repeat.
Mhm. And see, that's why I can't get with politics. I couldn't wait to leave high school. I was like, "This is silly.
This
We
is
gotta go."
well, trust me. Yeah, I still wonder, why did I leave the traditional practice of law
Mm.
for politics? Why did I think that would be a better choice?
Well, maybe like me, you wanna do good in the world, and we have a little self-sacrificial stuff that we are dealing with right now, and we talk about it all the time, so we're coping.
We do. Very true.
Absolutely, but I mean, the whole idea that, we don't even really really know what's in other people's heads. I think that's the first
Yeah.
thing that's so interesting, right? Because that's so applicable for then, for now, for the future, and it really does kind of, impact the way that you walk through the world, I would say, right? Like, I
Oh,
had a
yeah.
friend who was really insecure about, a project he was working on, and it's just like, I think they're gonna say this, or they're gonna cut this guy's gonna come after me for that, or whatever. And I was like, is anybody saying that though? And when somebody says it out front, that's a whole other thing. But I'm like, is
Mhm.
anybody saying this? And I always tell people, you are creating a story in your head about what's in other people's heads. Because if they're not saying it or doing it or forcing it, like, and even if they do, that's another thing that we can approach. But right now, and this is happens for the most part, this is where the discussion is usually it's people are anticipating and and just frankly like making up what they think other people are thinking,
Yep.
judging, saying about them, the story, like they are creating this story, this narrative in their mind of what everybody else is thinking. And for me, I've had a couple things that I just hold on to this day that just get me through that. The first is what other people think of me is none of my business. So I try
Right?
not to think about it at all, which is
And
not
also,
possible, right? Like
it
it can happen.
not only is it
Go
none
ahead.
of your
Mhm.
business, but it's also not even about you, right? It's
Right.
about
Right. Oh, good
it's
point. Yeah.
their
Absolutely.
worldview.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's how I react when I do find out someone's opinion. So my first step is I don't need to know. Like it's none of my business. Not concerned with it. I got other things to do. Like and that's actually practical advice I give people is like keep yourself busy thinking about what's important to you. Like one of the
Yeah.
first things I do when I'm really like helping somebody kind of work through their, I don't know if I want to call it neurosis, but just their obsession with other people. I'm like, you know what? Turn that all around. Like turn it like you're facing outward. I'm like whatever, like all that attention, like just turn it inward. And what do you really really care about? That needs to be your north star. And when you're sitting here thinking about what other people are saying about you or thinking about you, change that to what am I doing right now to get myself closer to my goals, my big dreams, my big, whatever you want for your life, whatever changes you're trying to make. So that's the first thing, like try not to think about it is my first step. And then the second part is if I do have intrusive thoughts, which happens to everybody, happens to the best of us,
Oh,
about
yeah.
what other people are thinking, I just make if you're going to make up a story, make it a good one. So I make up the best story. I walk into a room, I'm like, everybody's staring at me. They must think I'm beautiful. Like they just must think that I am just like the best person in the room, like because everyone's giving me their attention. And if you said the opposite, then how would you feel? It literally changes your life experience. So just make it a good story. That's my first two steps.
And I mean, from a practical standpoint, why are we not all doing that, right?
Right,
Why do we
right.
always assume it's the worst that people are viewing us,
Mhm.
as
Mhm.
opposed to, hey, I'm pretty cool. I know what I'm doing, even when I
Mhm.
don't, because nobody knows what they're doing all the time. Not a
We're
single
s-
person on the planet.
and we're taught so much to be like these words I can't even like I don't even want to say these words because they sound positive and I don't know that they're positive. Like you're taught to be humble. You're taught to be like, subdued. You're taught to be I mean really humble is the biggest one I guess because it's like you like self-deprecating even. Like that is what we are all taught to do. You get a compliment and what do you say when somebody gives you a compliment?
I
That is
always say, aren't you
yeah.
the sweetest? Thank you.
I love that. I love that. See, like how positive that is. You're like, I'm accepting this compliment from you and I'm, telling you how wonderful you are for giving it. And I say usually something like, you're so kind for saying that. And I say thank
Yeah.
you too. I accept it because, a lot of people and I should say, past me, and maybe I still do it sometimes would say something like, "Oh no, 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 no. Like I'm just doing this. I'm just doing that. I'm minimizing what I'm doing. It's not a big deal or anybody could do it even." Like I just like I can't accept this. I'm not worthy of this compliment and it's just why? Why? Or it's okay to give other people credit, but I like to say stuff like even with like teamwork and stuff I always say like I will take the compliment if somebody says I did a good job. I say thank you, yeah, we worked really hard together too, like I'm really proud of the team. I was able to bring
Mhm.
this, they were able to bring that, like together we just like worked so well together. I'm so proud of what we did. And it's okay, like it's okay to be like part of the team but not like minimize yourself to the point of extinction. Because for some reason that's something that's taught. I don't know how it's taught, but it's definitely taught. I see it all the time, and I force people to take my compliments too. On the other
I do.
side.
I do too. But I also think women get it worse than men, right? Like
Mhm,
you have to be more humble. You can't
mhm,
like it's okay for men to be, I don't know, have this like machismo or
mhm,
confidence or even
yeah,
borderline being cocky. It's
yeah,
okay for them to have that
yeah, they get a compliment, they
exterior.
deserve it, and it's like they
Right,
already know it. That's what's
right,
interesting too, is like they already know that when you so I'm thinking of a man, with getting a compliment. It's a fake makeup made up thing in my head right now. But I could think of women too. It's just a matter of like that person that is completely good. They know their worth, right? And it's more likely to happen with men because they're socialized to believe that they're worthy. And so when you see a person like that that takes a compliment, they almost don't even acknowledge it. They almost don't even say
right.
thank you. They're just like, I know. They don't have to say that, but that's the vibe that you get from them. They're just like, yeah,
Mhm.
or yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
they're not even like, "Oh, thank you so much for giving me this compliment. You're the sweetest thing." And they don't do all that. Actually, they're mostly
No.
like, "Yeah, yep, I did that."
But,
Which is
I mean,
also
it's
interesting. I don't know how far we want to go, but it's just an observation. It's just interesting.
but, it's the same kind of line, right? Like, why are some of us so reticent to accept and others are like, "Yeah,
Mm.
of course,
Mhm.
bring it on."
Yeah.
And what happens that makes it can make us switch to the team that allows us to just be like, "Yeah, I did this. This is
Yeah.
awesome."
Yeah. Well, you know what? I love that you just said the team that allows us, right? Because that's another thing. It's not just
Oh, yeah.
individual. We're always thinking about our individual responsibility. Like, even in the ways that we speak here, it's like, change this about yourself. Let's try to do this. Let's try this instead, right? And those things are important, of course, but it's really the collective actually that impacts the individual, right? Because if I'm
Yeah.
sitting in a room where I think, oh, if I act too cocky, these people are going to think I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
I better censor myself. I better
Or they're
look
not gonna like me.
humble. They're not going to like me. They're
Mhm.
going to think I'm like, all the words,
Yeah,
they're
all the
going to
words.
all
Mhm.
the words. They're going to think I'm this, they're going to think I'm that, they're going to think I'm power hungry, money hungry, but whatever. All those thoughts go through your head subconsciously or consciously, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that's really interesting too, is who are we surrounded by? And do they allow us to, really step into our greatness and live there unapologetically?
Which makes me appreciate you, Shy, I have to say.
Oh,
Just because, I think we found 2 kindred spirits who support each other and see all the best in each other, right? As opposed to we've all had those friends who are, like, good and supportive for, like, 50, 60, 70%,
mm,
but the remainder is like, "Oh, don't wanna catch this." I'm gonna
yeah,
walk out of that conversation feeling like crap.
yeah,
So you're absolutely
100%.
right. It is who you're
Well,
around and
yeah.
the team that surrounds you and your community.
Well, thank you for saying that, and it means a lot to me, and I feel exactly the same about you, and I don't know that I've ever really met a person like you that takes it to that. I feel like we've taken it to I want to say an extreme, but that makes it seem like it's a bad thing. It's not an extreme. It's just so different than what other people do, right? Because we have as a society, we've really ingrained and imprinted these limiting mindsets on one another. That's
Yeah,
the thing. And so like when you were talking about the friend who, can be supportive for 50, 60% of the time, I was thinking like, yeah, because that person has never thought themselves worthy of going beyond that, if that makes sense, right? Like I don't know
oh,
what
that is such a
scenario
good
you were
point.
thinking of, right? Like I was thinking like like the way that I see that is because I grew up in like a small-minded town, I like to say, where the town wasn't small, and it's not that there's not and limit opportunities were limited, etc. But um the mindset was small, and people would really, they would love you, they would be your friend and they would be sweet to you. But there was always like, you can't do that. Like, oh yeah, you could do this. Like, you could get good grades, you could go to college, but you can't. you're not going to do that though. Like, you're not going to move that far away, or you're not going, like, there's always a limiting mindset. And what I always,
Yeah.
and it's just like what you were saying earlier, is it wasn't about me at all.
Yeah.
It was about them and their limiting mindset.
Mhm.
And when people tell you, I've seen this so much, especially in fundraising, when people tell you what they think other people can and cannot do, they're actually telling you what they think they can and cannot do, and that's the
Yeah.
most tell that's the like, that's like poker, like, that's their tell. Like, you're like, "Oh, okay, so that's what you really think. That's what you really think. That's the limits of your mind. That's the limits of your mindset on potential." And it's
And
it's
my
intriguing.
my political mind is I'd rather hear someone say that they think somebody can do more
Mhm.
than somebody pre-limiting the situation,
Mm. Mhm.
right? Like putting in place boundaries and limits that don't even exist, but then you start playing by those rules because that's what so and so said.
That's
And it
Yep.
could be anyone in leadership too, in your team or in
Oh,
your
yeah.
circles.
Yes, 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 yes. Absolutely. And I love that you kind of you just framed it as like the rules or the boundaries or something, and it made me think about games, right? And I think that's I'm thinking now, it makes me think of how we as human beings, like, we're capable of even creating games. And it's really interesting that, we obviously must be using that same brain power to impose these mental limits, right? These boundaries, these conceptual boundaries that don't really exist. And then we use
Yeah.
our language, right? We use language and we
Mhm.
use social cues and we use facial expressions and we use all of these tools that we have as human beings to reinforce the use and reinforce the rules, right? And that's how we operate with everything, socially, politically, in everything that we do, honestly, relationships, all of that, all of those things are actually social norms, are just rules that we've made up. That's all that they are. And so it's really intriguing to me that, to think about how when people say like, "Oh, we can't do this, we can't do that." Well, we can do this, but we can't do this. I mean, I've always been just a critic at heart. I don't know where that came from. That's just me. And I'm always like, why? Why not? Why not is my favorite question. Because people usually don't know. They actually can't articulate it. They're just like, well, I don't know. I don't think we can. We haven't been able to before. This person said this
Or
person said this. Uh-oh. Like, it's
my
really
my class
scary.
my classic favorite is that's the way it's always been done.
That's the way it's always been done. That's the worst. That's the worst
So
excuse
bad
ever.
for everything.
And you're just like, well, you want to change things though, right? So logically, that means you literally would want to do something different. Yeah. And so I'm just pulling this out, to underscore the fact that all of these things are just, human behaviors that are taught, that are picked up, that are habitualized, if that's a word.
Mhm.
And that's all that it is. And it really only takes one person, honestly, in any setting. And I mean, two or three makes it like, oh, you got a revolution now. But it really only takes one person to start questioning, dissecting, changing things, changing the dynamic, planting the seed, making people think a little differently. And then if you can show them what's possible,
Yeah,
then you just blow people's minds. But well, I always say, like, it's not possible if you don't think it's possible.
absolutely.
If you don't think it's
Whereas,
possible, it's not going to happen.
what
You
does
got to
that
think it
mean
first.
where someone says, I see the word impossible, and all I see is I apostrophe M, I'm possible,
I
right?
like that. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because nothing is impossible, actually. I mean,
No.
like, everything that we thought was impossible in the past that is now happening. I mean, you would blow people's minds back in the whatever era, like, think about people from the 1920s, like, seeing, an iPhone or just, I mean, a spaceship, my god, like, anything. I mean, just a toaster, I don't know, like, they didn't see anything back then probably, I don't know what
Or,
they
you
had.
know, hello, our humble city, Austin, where the,
Yeah,
longtime residents are like, "Oh, all these people coming in, we don't want change." I'm
yeah,
like, yeah, because
yeah.
it's so great when your city stagnates."
Right, exactly, and then to see what it could be, and that's the thing is, like, you have to have some vision, and the only way to have vision is to believe that things are possible. And for me, I
Yeah,
will just say, like, very practically, humble beginnings. I didn't see a lot of, big exciting things or big exciting successes of the people around me. Definitely not. There was a lot of, just gloom and doom, frankly. A lot of gloom and doom, individually, communities wide. Um, and then even like on the nationwide level, it's like, people that are being disenfranchised in every regard, they're not feeling good about the nation, like everything is
right?
bad. So for me, um, what I would do very practically, like this is super practical advice for anybody that is, stuck in a negative loop, is I would look at different examples, and I had the blessing and privilege of going to college, being one of the first people in my family to have that luxury or have that opportunity. And going to college really changed me because it just gave me like a worldly view. That's all I can say. Like it was just like, oh, it just opened up my world way beyond my little, little slice of location in the world. And I was able to see like, oh, there's all kinds of people doing all kinds of incredible things. And why not me? Why not you? Why not anybody in my community? So for me, I still hold on to that. And I'm talking about like the smallest examples, whether they be like good or bad examples, honestly. Like I've seen, stories of people just doing, going through tremendous struggle in different parts of the world or whatever. And that helped me feel grateful for not having to go through that right now. I was just like, wow, we're really lucky. We get to like, be in college and not be in war right now. Like that's a big deal. I mean, I'm like that I am lucky. And then on the other side, seeing people just especially the come up stories, like people that came from poverty or what have you and did these amazing things, whether it was big or small, like from world changing stuff to just like, oh, they became, a professional. They have a house. They bought a house. So I could do that too, I'm sure. Like I just have to figure out how they did it. That kind of very like practical thing to me is the way that you just start slowly proving to yourself that your limiting mindset is not okay and that it can be broken and that it's not justified, right? It's like all of these things that people have been telling you, cueing you into trying to plant these seeds, like you can upend those, you can, uproot them and you can plant something new. And it's going to grow because it worked for other people. That's what helped me anyways.
What your story reminds me of my friend, who I'm gonna call V, who has this really great explanation for that type of community that's like, you really can't do that," or
Mhm.
"No, you really wanna stay here," kind of
Mm.
mentality. She calls it crabs in a bucket, and every time some crab
Mhm.
tries to crawl out of the bucket, the other crabs just pull it back on down into the bucket.
Yep. Yep.
And I guess maybe it's, human lizard brain that wants to keep people close, or
Mm.
who knows? I have another friend who was troubled when they had a cousin, and they were a family that's large, that's lived in one major Texas city, and one cousin decided to leave that major Texas city and move to another major Texas city.
Mhm.
I'm not even talking like leaving the state,
Mhm.
same state, and it was like trauma for this family. I'm like, what is happening? I mean, as somebody who lived, across an ocean for her
Yeah.
grandparents,
Yeah.
aunts and uncles and
Yeah.
cousins.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
for sure. I know,
but it's
well,
just
I mean, that's literally
weird.
just like, that's a great example of just, like, literally people were like, "You cannot move," and I'd be like, I'm sure people move all the time. Like, I'm just like, I could check, I mean, but I'm pretty sure that's like, okay. I don't think anything crazy is gonna happen. I mean, and like even
Right.
now, I just like keep pushing that. And it's like once you get a little, like once you do that one thing, then you can see so many other opportunities. Like now I'm like, I'm sure
Yeah.
people move abroad. Like I mean, I'm literally just like really exploring that and being like, even though I know you and other people that have done it, I'm like, I need to see more examples of this to see how it really went because it really
Right?
is such a limiting, thing that's just there. It's an insecurity, it's a doubt. Oh god, doubt is so powerful.
Yes.
So, so powerful, and that's what people do is they instill doubt and fear into you to make you just question whether or not this is gonna be okay, how hard is it gonna be, how bad is it gonna be, what's the what could happen, and I mean, another practical thing is I would just think about the worst thing that could happen, actually. I'm like, everybody is so
Yep.
scared. I'm like, I'm not that scared, but let me explore this. So what's the worst possible thing that could happen? And I used to tell people, I'm sure I've said this before, like, well, if I'm gonna be, poor and, have no home, then I could do that here, I could do that there. Be like, that's the worst thing that I could think that could happen. I don't I'm like, what else is gonna happen to me? Like, I'm like, I know how to work. I think I'll be alright. Just
It
like, what could happen?
I have a familial example that's I'm gonna use the word extreme, but it does help because I think about it often.
Mhm.
So, my grandmother was one of 13 kids in Sweden,
Mm.
and one of her cousins was on the Titanic and did not survive.
Wow.
Tried to come to the
Oh
United
my
States
god.
to change their world of view. And I think,
Wow.
you know what? Our family takes that story and uses it as a reason that you can do anything, as
Mm.
opposed to a reason that you can't do something.
Wow, I love that.
Because we see it as her being brave enough
Yep,
to leave her family, leave her country because she wanted to explore something else. And instead
and
of
I love that it was a
making
she.
it was a
I
shame,
love
and
that.
instead of
I love it.
making it a tale of tragedy, it is
Yeah.
within the family a tale of like excitement and vigor and wow, how can you do this?
Adventure, yeah,
Adventure.
amazing, amazing. I love that, and see, again, it's the story that you create. It's the narrative
Yeah.
that you create around it. Like, you could ob obviously, absolutely make this a negative thing or a bad thing in some way, but you didn't, you choose not to, and that's the power of, like, really free will and creativity of the human mind and spirit. Like, that's amazing. I love that so much, and yeah, it really is all about how you are framing things and the messages and lessons that you're taking from it. And the
Yeah.
other thing that pulls for me there is that I'm with you. Like, I love the way that it's been framed, but I could also imagine the person who hears that story and what they would feel on the other side of it. And
Mhm.
immediately I feel the fear, and it's
Yeah.
the fear is the emotion that is really, 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 motivating or directing in a powerful way. And so that's another thing, honestly, is that you have to acknowledge fear. You have to acknowledge
Mhm.
that people are trying to put fear into you, and why are they trying to put fear into you. And again, my education that I've gotten on intimate partner violence has actually been, again, applicable in this way, because I now think about, like, if somebody is trying to put fear in me, that means they're trying to control my behavior, that means they're trying to have power and control over me, and that is not healthy. So I
Not
reject
only
it.
is not only is that not healthy, but I mean, the idea of allowing somebody to have power over you, no, thank you.
Yes, no, thank you. Exactly. But that's what I mean is, like, when you're, especially when you're young, but I think at any point in your life, honestly, even, at
Mhm.
any point, people will, and by people, I mean all the people, your partner, your in romantic relationships, your friends, your coworkers, your colleagues, your bosses, your media, your like
Mhm.
overall society, like everybody can and sometimes will try to say, do, display different things and stories to try to change
Mhm.
your mindset, to try to control or at least try to limit right, your behaviors, by limiting your mindset. And so now I'm very aware, I should say, and I hope that everybody gets to that place, because when you're at least aware of what people are trying to do,
Mhm.
at least you can make a conscious choice about it. The thing about fear is that it's very, very, like you said, lizard brain, right? Like, it's very,
Yeah.
very just, like, base level, like, it's on that other, dimension of your being. It's not a big conscious thing all the time. Most of the time, it's very subconscious. It's mostly like, "Oh, oh, 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 oh," like, "You don't wanna go over there," and you don't even need to know why. You're just like, "This person is afraid." Immediately, like, something gets activated in your body where you're just like on high alert, like, okay, let me, let me just avoid that, is one of the, like, first options. But the other option that I would really encourage is, again, to take a pause and be really thoughtful about, where is this coming from? Is it coming from a good place? Is it real, or is it imagined? Is it legitimate? Is it a fear that is applicable to me and my life? Do I understand the risk and choose to take it anyways because I have priorities that are different from this person? Is this about that person, or is it about me? All of those different things you have to consider before just buying into somebody else's fear. And sometimes they don't even know where it's coming from, frankly.
Yeah. A question I often ask myself, which I don't know if it's the best advice to give to other people, but I often ask myself, is this efficient use of my time? Like, is
Mm.
it an efficient use of my time to ruminate on this fear? No.
Mhm.
Is it an efficient use of my time to think about the negative things my coworker, boss, friend said to try to limit me? No, because it's just going to piss me off and I'm going to spiral. And I acknowledge that exists, but I am not going to
Yeah,
change them. I can only
yeah.
just be the best version of myself.
Oh, yeah, I love that. And I something that kicked in for me when you were speaking was thinking about intrusive thoughts, like, and spiraling is something that, definitely should you try to avoid it if you can. If you can be really thoughtful about it, then do it.
Mhm.
But also I want to acknowledge that, like, it's not always avoidable. And
And yeah,
yeah, and we all have to work towards learning techniques to try to limit that, basically. But if you're struggling with that, I think probably the first step would be just reflecting and even seeing it. It seems to me like so many people don't even don't even acknowledge that part of it. Like, they're not there. They're just reacting to it. They're having an emotional reaction to it, right? So, like, those thoughts come to them and they just are living it, and they're in that moment again. They're emotionally reacting to it, and that's how you get to be, that's how you really do harm emotionally to yourself. So I don't have all the answers, of course. I wish I did, but the first step I know is to at least see it, so that you can try to deal with it in that kind of level of, I see this happening. I'm going to choose to leave it there, right? Like, all those decisions you're making, is this, I'm going to question whether or not I should be thinking about this. All of that, before you can get there, you have to see it and you have to reflect.
and I think you also have to realize that it happens to everyone. So
Mm,
it's not something that, oh my God, only I would do this, or only I would have this type of anxiety that would make me do this. No, it
no,
happens to
absolutely.
everyone.
Yeah.
And there should be some comfort in that because it's normal and
Mhm.
we all find ways to cope with it. Some professionally, some personal tactics works for you.
Yeah. And we talk about a lot of different ways. Generally, it's, what we think is important to have in life. But I'll just bring up one again, which is, to make sure you're spending time doing things that bring you joy. Like, that again, it's
Yeah.
just something that, especially when you're stagnant, um maybe you're not in a great mood to begin with. I feel like those are breeding grounds for intrusive thoughts, right? Those
Oh,
intrusive thoughts come
absolutely.
through. They're there. They're gonna plant their, like, little feet in. Like, they're not going anywhere. they're gonna burrow deeper and deeper into your mind. And, if you're out, like, I don't know, what do you like to do? Like, you wanna go surf or something? Like, go surfing. They probably aren't gonna be there. Like, go do whatever brings you joy, whatever that looks like. And I mean, maybe it's distractionism, I don't know, but it works a little bit more,
Yeah, and
and it's just not giving it the opportunity to be there.
something that I love that you always stress is think about the people you're around, right?
Mm,
Are they making this situation more intense than it should be? Are they
yeah.
contributing to that? And does that bring you joy? Like, does it bring you joy having people around that kind of, I don't know, make that spiral become like such a centrifugal force that you become like this black hole?
Do they trigger it? Yeah, like,
Yeah,
are they bringing it when you're not ready, not prepared, you know?
yeah.
That's another thing that I really I really want and hope for all of us, as we talk about, like, these made up rules that we all make up. I would love for us to make up some new rules about that,
I love
because
this.
and those rules could be your personal rules that you carry around with you, right? Like, if people wanna
Yeah.
play a game with you, they need to play by your rules, and we call those boundaries, right?
Yep.
But really, it's like you walk into a space and people are just like vomiting all their trauma all over you, and you're just like, I didn't agree to this. Like, I don't want to play this game, and then what? You're the bad person if you like walk away or whatever. Like, this is
Mhm.
ridiculous. I really wish that we could find a new social norm where we're talking about, I'm just going to frame it in terms of trauma because that's what I relate to the most. But I really wish that that was a thing where it was like we ask permission. Like, it's like you should have consent before you start talking about this stuff with people. You don't know what they're going through. I mean, some people
Right.
out here are absolutely suicidal. They're on the
Yeah.
edge, and like you're just
Yeah.
gonna bring up, your trauma, and like, I know that a lot of people, try to downplay this, but I think it's because those people have never really experienced what I'm talking about, and that's the only explanation I can have, is that they don't understand. Because if you understood how powerful that is, and how impactful it is, and how devastating it can be, you would never do that to people. You just I no, you can't do that. So, I would love for us to have, new rules. We need to do a Lipa little segment in here. New rules, for people to understand that, it's great to talk about your feelings. It's great to talk about emotions. It's great, probably, even to process your trauma with people that are ready to do that with you. But it should be consensual, and it should actually be really informed, and it shouldn't be just something that you just throw all over other people, and it makes you feel better and makes them feel worse. That's really rude.
Right. And it should be this kind of like utilitarian standpoint, right? Like the
Yeah.
group should move forward because of this. It should be
Yes.
something that
Yes.
is part of the solution and not part of the problem. However, whatever phrasing you like, but there should be some greater good that comes out of it. And if it's only
100%.
about you, I don't think there
Yeah.
is a greater good that's only about you.
Absolutely. We gotta find some language around this. Like, I feel like it's
Yeah.
very much in the same space as, like, consent language. Like, is it okay? Like, Tessa, I've been really struggling with something that was, traumatic in my life. Is it okay right now to talk that through with you? Like, that would be good.
Wouldn't it be amazing if we all communicated like that?
I would love that so much. Oh my God. Because I'm just not prepared. Like, and the reason I'm saying this is because sometimes, a lot of people come to me with different things, and it's starting to become like they're co- they're it's starting to become like they're only coming to me with their trauma, if that makes sense, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so then it wasn't always like that, where there was always a mix. So it was like, it was fine. I could handle that, basically. And now it's like, oh, it's always this now. It's always 10, and that's
And that's
hard.
and it
Yeah.
pulls your energy out, right? Like it doesn't.
Yeah. But I wanna
It
do it still. Like, I still
right.
wanna be there. That's not the issue. The issue is, I wanna be there when I'm ready to be there and when I'm powerful enough to be there and when I have enough
Mhm.
energy to lend and when I have enough power to share. Does that make sense? Like, it has
Oh,
to be, like
absolutely.
I have to be, like, on a full battery before to give some of mine to somebody else, right? Like, that's the thing, and I don't know that people understand that. I think that they just feel like, if you did it before, you can do it now. You're super strong and, like, it's like Superman type of thing, like, people don't understand him when he's not Superman. And
But I
so it's the same kind of thing, yeah.
and tell me if this is just perhaps an overly negative view of the world, but I feel as though sometimes people are more interested in taking
Mm,
from
mhm,
you than giving to you, right? Like, I think if we would ask for permission or consent, hey, do you have the bandwidth to talk about this? This is really a problem for me. There is that, there's a give and take factor in that, right? Because you understand what the situation is, as opposed to
yeah.
somebody who just sits down and like, oh my God,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
tells you
yeah.
this long tale of woe that is horrible and traumatic, and you feel for the person.
Mhm.
But
Empathy, like, that's such a good
yeah,
point, like, empathy drain, like, that is a real thing where it's like and,
hmm
vicarious trauma is a real thing, and I mean, this is something I've had to deal with in my professional life, I mean, on a daily basis, and I don't know how people keep doing that for years and years because it's a lot, and you have to deal with it for work whether or not you're ready, right? And that's
hmm
that's so scary to me, especially, like, you talk about pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, or I don't think we're past it, so I never really say post-pandemic, but now, current
that's a better
pandemic.
phrase. Like, yeah, now.
And now, it's like people are actually thinking about mental health. I think maybe for the
Yeah.
first time in my life.
hmm
Pre-pandemic, people just thought like they're crazy people and sane people. Like that was like
Yeah.
the language that I knew. That was like if you had a mental health condition, it was like, "Oh, you're crazy." And you know, I'm not. That's it.
Right? It's
Like
like, you step into that line over there, and I'll stay in my line
yeah,
here.
and it was like the
Yeah.
otherism of it all
Mhm.
was so hurtful in so many ways,
Absolutely.
and it's still hurtful. The stigma is still very real, and like I've been trying to get a therapist appointment, and I've just like it's just interesting because it's like just something on my list now where I think it's I always tell people like it's super normal, like everyone should do it. I wish everybody had it, but as I'm doing it, I'm actually, like, having to be real with myself and feeling like, "Oh, I'm noticing, like, this is interesting, like, I'm actually gonna go to a therapist, and what does" like, I'm not thinking, like, "What does that mean?" And, like, "This is a terrible thing," but it's just interesting, like, it gives you pause where you're just like, "Okay, well, if I'm thinking this or feeling this or just sensing something, I can't imagine what other people must feel who, like, have, serious mental health struggles and have
Yeah.
maybe been struggling all their lives and people have told them that they're crazy and all the insecurity they must feel around that. I'm sorry, I got completely off topic, I'm pretty sure, but whatever we were talking about, it's definitely related to mental health. And I would love for there to be a space where people just acknowledge that everybody, no matter how much they have, you know, been modeling healthy mental behaviors, no matter how much empathy that they've displayed or given, no matter how much they've been a confidant and a guide, etc. Like, no matter who that person is in your life, they are also a person who has mental health. Like, realities. We all have we're all human beings, and so we have to acknowledge it for ourselves. I would just love if it was, like, just a thing. I just wish it was, like, such a cultural thing of just, like, this is we ask for permission before we talk about this, or we check in with people before we ask them to give their empathy to us, right? Like, I would just love that to be a thing. I think it would be lovely all the way across the board.
Yeah. For some reason, the campground rule popped into my head. I'm
Mm,
thinking about how you're supposed to leave situations and people and places better than you found them.
mm.
And I think that kind of supports the idea of asking for either permission or the space to discuss something that could be traumatic for you with somebody else because you want to leave that situation in a better space. So, like, not only permission, but also acknowledge the fact that you know that what you're going to say will come with this sort of drain or concern because naturally whoever you're talking to is probably somebody who has some care and concern for you. Otherwise, why are you talking to them?
Right.
And so
Yeah,
you know that
absolutely.
they're going to be impacted by it. So why aren't we asking that? It's kind of like, our challenge from before of don't answer how are you with just I'm fine, but go a little deeper. And so if you're going to talk about the woes, go a little deeper and respect the other person and say, hey, this is what's happening. I would really love to talk about it. Is this a good time for this? I mean, we do
Yeah.
that when we make business calls, right? And say, hey, is this a good
Right,
time to
that's true.
chat? Why are we doing this with the people we talk to the most who might unleash these type of things on us without our knowledge or consent?
Right, right. Just checking in. Is this a good time? I mean, people don't even ask
Yeah,
me that. They just and I mean,
and
also,
because
like,
you're
just
special and people
technology
love
is
your
so funny. I was just thinking, like, text messaging is so interesting because there's, like, no real formalities anymore of that.
yeah,
It's like, just like, here's words that I wanna say to you. Like, it's just there's no, like, "Hey, is now a good time?" or, "Hey, are you busy?" Like, at least when people used to call you, it used to be like, "Hey, what's up? Are you doing anything right now? Like, are you busy?" Something. There was, like,
yeah.
something, and now it's just, like, words, information all the time. Like, it's so much. It's so much. I'm gonna throw my phone away maybe.
And I think, and maybe this is my like uptight politeness side,
Yeah.
but I also just like texted like start and just like go right into it immediately into like a whatever
Mhm.
horrific thing that's occurring. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, hi, how are you? I mean, can we start
Maybe
with that just so I can ease into this situation?
exactly, maybe that's a thing where we just, we're doing a little modeling ourselves, I guess. I mean, this is again, the first thing is, like, just acknowledging it and then trying to, break it down on how we can approach it just like with everything else, so
So I'm trying to think of a way to like turn this into like a weekly, hey, how are we gonna get what kind of new behavior can we adopt to like make everybody feel a little bit better about themselves? And I'm
mhm.
wondering, is it just basically the campground rule? Are we leaving the people that we talk to and interact with in a better place than we did before? Or when we
I like
started
that.
there's the conversation.
Yeah. I really like that because, I mean, even if I wanted to come talk about something hard with you, difficult that I'm dealing with or something, for example, I mean, I like the idea of, checking in with you first, but then also, leaving space for you to, I guess, I don't want to say get something out of it, but, for it to be a good interaction for you, like something that was meaningful to you. And I think we do it every week when we do this. Like, we're talking about
Yeah,
difficult things, but we're also, like, feeling uplifted at the end because we supported each other through it, and we both got to, talk about the way that we feel about things, the things that we think about. We were able to think through them. We were able to support each other. We were able to come to some conclusions. We were able to come to some solutions, and I think that's the value. And every week we're both saying how great we feel afterwards,
yeah.
and so it can be a little bit more like that.
Absolutely, and I mean, it doesn't have to be some momentous thing.
Right,
It could just be,
right.
"I'm really happy to help you. I'm really happy to listen. That makes me feel good
Yeah.
that you came to me with your issues." Or
Yes. Mhm,
acknowledging the fact that, this is gonna take up space in my world,
mhm.
that I appreciate, and that's what made me feel better about the situation. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
something big and huge,
Just
like fireworks and ribbons and
just
it could just be
acknowledging that
so
it's a
yeah,
sacrifice and being
yeah,
grateful for that is such a big deal, actually. And, it makes me think about, like, the fundraising world where it's like, saying thank you and telling people about the impact that they had
Yeah.
is so huge, actually. Like, it's so little, but it's so huge. Like, it just takes like a little note to send somebody to say, hey, you did this, and now this person is doing great because of you. Like, that makes somebody feel wonderful. And I think it's the same thing where you're just like, hey, this is what I'm asking. I know it's a sacrifice, but are you willing to do it? And then being grateful about it. And just those little things can make a huge difference.
Right. And you make such a good point. Like, why aren't we thanking people after we do this situation? Because we've all done it. So why always say, thank you. I'm so glad you listened to me. I feel so much better. And your
Yeah.
presence made me feel better about this situation.
Yeah, 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 I love that. Okay, so we're gonna leave everybody that we find better off that we find better.
Yeah,
And we're gonna ask for permission too. I like both of those things together and
I
show
do too.
gratitude. Yeah,
Yeah. And
I love
imagine
it.
like if that could spread like wildfire, that would be just like a world where people appreciated each other and
Mm.
respected each other.
And on the other side, people would feel um valued.
Yeah.
They would feel valued. And what would that do for our self-esteem across the board?
Well, that takes us full circle because then I don't think we would have a Samantha standing on those steps going, "Oh, you're talking about me?" Samantha would know
Right.
damn well that
Yeah,
you showed up to see
obviously.
her.
Obviously, who else would you be here for?
Right.
I love it. Thank you so much for this conversation, Tessa. I do feel uplifted and I feel grateful for you every time.
Uh, Same here. I love how much we laugh during these conversations, even though they can be sad and serious and really hard things to deal with. There is still always that hope and optimism that things will get better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's joy to be found everywhere in life. So
Yes.
thank you for
And we
bringing more
hope,
joy to my life. Yeah,
thank you. And we hope all of you also find more joy in your lives and the lives of those around you.
absolutely. We'll see you next time.